you discuss the working class on a world scale, right the way down to what's going on in Britain today. There may be difficulties defining exactly what class consciousness is. I mean, the article starts off with a quote from an online encyclopedia, which seems to have a pretty good one. But in the definition, even there, you know, and in the first thing, it makes the point that, you know, the concept of consciousness is always evolving, and the most difficult thing, and this is what I was saying at the beginning about known unknowns, to capture the contradictory things and to see what the main element of it is. And actually the main element of it for a political organisation can be, it's not necessarily the dominant thing at the present time. It might be the thing that we have to pick up on. It might be that in general there's a decline in working class consciousness, but there are possibilities in new layers coming into struggle that we have to capitalise on. There can be all kinds of variants in it. I think, I'm going to be incredibly pragmatic about it and look at it this way. I think that one of the things when you talk about celebrity culture, you talk about depoliticisation in the youth, and you know, people being particularly concerned about their careers and so on, is a dominant idea or a received wisdom. And the received wisdom, which isn't even made explicit generally amongst lots of people, is that you can only rely on personal solutions to your problems. You cannot any longer rely on collective solutions. Whether those collective solutions are solutions through struggle, through the trade unions or political organisations, or collective solutions in the form of state or local government provision. And this, I think this started, actually I think one of the most intelligent things that Margaret Thatcher ever did to make Britain a property-owning democracy, because that tied so many people to retirement incomes, to having a little lump of capital. But you can see it, I see it all the time in a college. People come who've not had a job before, come out of university and teacher training college, come in, and they are dead keen to develop their careers. And this is where the question of class differentiation becomes important, because actually I think there's somebody who's earning maybe as a new teacher £22,000 a year is part of the working class. A principal who's earning £90,000 or £100,000 a year is not part of the working class. And it's to do with the supervisory and career thing. You see, I see it in individuals. People who used to be in the Communist Party, the new petty bourgeoisie, I mean, it's not, were strong supporters of the NUT, who get a management position, and it's to do with the supervisory and career thing. You see, I see it in individuals. People who used to be in the Communist Party, who are strong supporters of the NUT, who get a management position, and then suddenly they're less interested in coming to union meetings anymore. But what often happens with these younger people is that they come, bang, slap up against the reality of college and educational life nowadays, which is this immense pressure which drives you mad, gives you immense amounts of work, and actually if Ofsted says your college is only satisfactory, which would say increasingly almost everywhere in North East London is just satisfactory, and as we know, satisfactory is completely unsatisfactory. And so you enter into a Kafkaesque... Anyway, the whole point about it, I think, let's leave outside of the educational sphere, the dreams of personal, or the confidence or the expectation of personal advice increasingly during this period of crisis is going to come unstuck, and it's going to be people who assumed that they had a final salary linked pension, or people who assumed that the money in their pension fund was actually going to be used for pensions rather than something else in this period. You can see there's these signs of, we'll use the term distress. There are big signs of distress, and it's going to go into the middle class, and it's going to go into the working class. And often the debates about where the petty bourgeoisie starts, the supervisory petty bourgeoisie starts, can be a bit archaic, because in this period, people who assumed that they had a job for life, it's going to hit both very hard. The problem is having an alternative and the possibility of an alternative. And I think, I don't want to sound a voluntarist note here, but you know, all the experience is, if you actually talk to trade union militants in virtually any sphere, but especially in the public sector, is that, you know, in a workplace, always management say that we have no alternative. Right? We've got to reorganise like this. We've got to hold your wages at this level. There is no alternative, and this is a microcosm of what happens in society as a whole. I mean, the political autism of the New Labour. So, well, you know, this crisis is caused by international factors. So, what can we do? There is no alternative, and you know, this business about it's extraordinary. They've gone to the big power and energy companies and said, "Go, please, a few crumbs. You know, can you give us a few crumbs so we could give it as a rebate?" They've said, "Fuck off." New Labour, smashed around the face. Gordon Brown, who are you? We're the big energy companies. We're going to decide what's going to happen. People have to believe. So it just, in most workplaces, takes 2 or 3 people to get up and say it's not true. There's no alternative. And we don't have to make all those redundancies, and it's not true that we have to have this pay freeze, and the situation changes, especially when there are people who are very disappointed and their expectation. I'm not saying it's all young people who wanted a nice career, but older workers as well, in many, many different spheres now, who are seeing their dreams literally torn up. And one of the big dreams which is being torn up is Margaret Thatcher's dream of no property owning democracy. So property owning democracy until we have a few problems, in which case you're kicked out of your house, especially by Northern Rock. But here is the problem. See, I think it is the problem of crystallising a political alternative. I think we can all agree with that. That crystallising a political alternative is key to helping resolve the problem of working class consciousness, militant consciousness, and I don't. The formula that Alan used, right? I think it was what we used to call in the IMG an elliptical and synthetic formula, which means it was wrong. No, it means Alan said, well, if the anti-war movement had existed at the time of militant trade unions, yeah, well, I agree with that. But if there had been militant trade unions, it would have meant that there had not been that big decline of trade union struggle right the way from the 1980s, and then that would have meant that the whole political culture would have been different. Yeah, the whole two things would go together, because you know the peace movements had 3 big waves in Britain since about 1958, and I came into politics during the first wave, but the political culture there was such that, you know, the first thing I started reading was Tribune. It was, you know, there's a Labour left. All those kind of things, all those things that we sum up with the word socialism, all those things have got to be recreated. But the basis for it is struggle, and on that, you know, there's plenty of potential for that in the next period. The idea that millions of public sector workers are going to settle for 2%, when, I mean, I don't know what the real inflation is. Depends on how much you earn. I suppose for most people it's 10, 12, 14%. I mean, this is insane. So I predict extraordinary struggles ahead. Okay.